scare me like that, Heidi. Oh no. Try clicking on this over there, the MPS Commission one. See what happens. I'm like, what? That's the last thing I need on this pack.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4:30, and in the great wise words of the gentleman to my right, it's not snowing.
Thank goodness.
It is a beautiful day outside, and somebody else that's here doesn't want to be here because it's a beautiful day outside.
That was supposed to be a secret.
No, it's not a secret now. Moorhead, he doesn't want to be here. I'd like to call this meeting of the Moorhead Public Service Commission to order.
Did you find it?
May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Got a motion? Got a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. I'd entertain a motion to. I would recognize Mr. Regala because he has a change.
Well, just a question.
Okay.
Since the approval of the minutes is on the consent agenda,
Yeah.
is that where you were going next, I'm assuming? I had a question regarding how the minutes were written, so I don't know if that's appropriate.
Let's just pull them and then we'll talk about it. So,
On the minutes and on line 9.
let's just pull them from the consent
Okay.
and then do the rest of the
Just
consent.
rescind that motion and then do a new one.
Well,
with that.
the agenda was fine. We're not approving
you're
the
not doing
consent
consent.
yet. So we'll pull the minutes from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Right, Casey?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Okay, good deal. Anything else? Any other concerns about consent? Okay. Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the change from Mr. Regala.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Item number 4, approve the minutes from March the 6th of 2018.
I just wanted to make a clarification here on the sentence 9. It's headed as approve the 218-220 strategic plan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that was done, so I don't know if we need to restate it somehow, or that was probably on the agenda, but we did not approve it.
Yeah, at the
And how
bottom
is-
of that section, it says defer, but yeah.
So I don't know if it needs to be changed or not, so that's more just a question of clarification, because when you first read the heading, you can perceive that it was approved. I don't know, it's a question.
I could add just a note at the end of that, John, that says something to the effect, no action taken, like in parentheses or something, but it should still match the agenda item title.
Okay.
So we can do that.
Okay.
Sound good?
With that clarification, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 6th?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a second motion and a second to approve minutes from March 6th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? All opposed, same sign? None? Motion is approved. Customers to be heard or recognitions. Anything going on that way, Bill?
No.
No? Okay. Old business. Any old business to attend to tonight?
Nope.
All righty. Reports. Heidi, City Council.
I have nothing, thank you.
We have nothing tonight. Okay. Item B, Public Service Commission. Members, anything? John.
I'd like to just comment on the last council meeting, and then Heidi, I think you might, add if you think it's appropriate here. There was a discussion about the 21st Avenue project, and I think from what I heard Bob give explanation of the meeting that we had, along with updated changes that are coming, he presented that extremely well, and I think he maybe had some news that wasn't really good news for the project as far as potential additional costs. But I really appreciated the way he presented and shared all the information very accurately and fully in details.
That information is being, the specific information that Commissioner Regala is talking about is being shared with the council this week, in some one-to-one meetings with the city manager and with Bob. I have not yet had my meeting with Chris and with Bob, so I don't know the specifics of that information yet. So.
Anything else, John?
No.
Other members, anything?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to general manager.
I don't have any additions to the general manager report. If there's any questions.
Any discussion from any of you on the general manager's material that was sent out? Like to?
Yep, if I
Okay.
could.
John?
Could you expand a little bit, Bill, on number 2, your Minnesota legislative update? You had referenced that you spoke to the legislator, and could you give a little bit more specifics as far as what that discussion was?
Yeah, I mean, we had the legislative meetings. The Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association does go to the Capitol about this time every year. And you see in your agenda some materials about what we have basically gone and talked to them about. A lot of it tends to be educating them on, you know, the importance of a municipal utility, what the municipal utilities do, those types of things. We did talk a bit about the 21st Street project, and as Bob Zimmerman, I'm sure, talked to the council about, there is legislation that is making its way through the legislature that would allow for reimbursement of utilities for projects such as the 21st Street. I'm not real clear whether or not that would actually apply to the 21st Street yet, but it's but it would allow for those types of projects to be reimbursed. It appears like it will likely pass. I don't know if there will be anybody that's going to oppose it, but both Ben Lean and well, it's in the House right now. So,
Okay.
anyway, that's a little bit of an update. We'll kind of keep track of that.
Anything else for Bill from other members? Okay. Moving on to item number D, then under reports, to accept the report on conditional use permit for Sandbeck Race Development.
This one would be a good one for Chris Knutson to kind of give you an update. There was a lot of work. John Bolger was involved in this as well, and Chris and John did an excellent job of protecting our interests and protecting the Buffalo Aquifer on this issue. So we'll give you a little update.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge John did a fantastic job on this particular issue. We informed the commission of this issue a couple times. Essentially, you'll remember the issue here, Sandbeck was looking at putting 4 storage buildings just south of the Moorhead Airport on a parcel that used to be in the Wellhead Protection Overlay District. We went to the Clay County Planning Commission and really spoke of some of our concerns. Ultimately, the conditional use permit was granted by the Clay County Planning Commission. Subsequent to that action, we took some further action to make sure that some of our concerns were addressed on the site. Primarily, our concerns were focused on 2 issues, the number of bathrooms per building, and then storage of vehicles on the site. We found out through some clarifications that the waste from the site would be stored, both the sanitary waste and the storm drain waste would be stored in holding tanks, so that concern was addressed. But the 2 other issues were still outstanding. We met with representatives of Sandbeck Race Development and were able to come to an agreement on those issues, and then took that agreement actually to the Clay County board meeting, at which point they added those provisions to the conditional use permit. So appreciate that action by the Clay County board as well. It was really nice to come to the meeting in kind of a positive way, in that we'd already reached an agreement. It wasn't adversarial. Clay County acknowledged our efforts and Sandbeck's efforts, and appreciate Sandbeck as well taking the time to meet with us and discuss the concerns relative to the site. I think it was a good outcome for everybody. So.
I found the board members to be very receptive to our concerns, as I called on several of them and on Brian Berg. The question that I have, and I'm glad that this is resolved as amiably and really, as well as it is, but I'm concerned about the future. Looking forward then, and the process that is available to properties, even still on top of the aquifer. This is supposed to be ground that's protected by prior efforts, and the assistant county attorney's letter to us concerned me as well, because we have a process in place to basically allow these types of permits to happen, and unless we're bird dogging every one of these things that are going on in the county that's over that ground, is there a way for us to revisit what was done to change the wellhead protection that we had put in place? Or did we miss this in the earlier process? I just don't look forward to having to do this every time, and some property owners are not going to be as happy to play as maybe this one was. So where do we go from here?
This was a unique parcel in that the Wellhead Protection Overlay District was removed for specific development, and it was just left that way. I would say most of the time, these types of developments wouldn't happen over the aquifer because that Wellhead Protection Overlay District is in place.
Right.
So it shouldn't be that frequent of a thing that would happen. However, you have to stay, bird dogging is a great word to describe it. You have to stay vigilant in watching those because somebody, there's always an appeal to developing for whatever reason in that area. So I don't know if there's any other alternatives. I think a educational piece to Clay County in terms of what the history of that Wellhead Protection Overlay District is, why it's there. We were there last year presenting on the aquifer management plan, but it's something that we constantly kind of need to do. So I think there's an opportunity there for a little bit more education. But I think we'll always have to stay vigilant.
Maybe a little follow-up then between us and county. I would include our friends at the city so that we have a conversation about how important this resource is, and going forward, as you say, being vigilant. But maybe we missed something. When that parcel was allowed this change, maybe it shouldn't have been allowed. We've done some things to remediate this thing, but I'm just concerned about what the future looks like on this. Heidi, you looked like you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I do have a few questions. This concerns me as well, Dave. I don't agree that the parcel should have been up for this kind of development. The safety and the security of our aquifer is very important to me. I do understand that there'll be tanks that sanitary waste will be secured in, but do we know what type of composition of those storage tanks, how do we know about the security of those tanks? Who will assure that they are fault-proof, break-proof? I don't know that the developer will come to MPS and say, do you approve of these tanks? How will the certain setbacks, or they're not called setbacks, but the apron, the storage apron, who will enforce that, and how will that be monitored? How do we know that they will follow those conditions? Is somebody going to go out and make sure that they're not violating those conditions? And then my last question, and maybe these are more basic statements, are there any other holes in our watershed overlay district that we should shore up to make sure that this doesn't sneak in again?
There's kind of a couple parts to that question. With respect to the enforcement piece, I think Tim Magnuson is primarily the enforcement person for Clay County, but also works with their environmental folks. So it's really, I think we could, and from MPS's standpoint, step up some efforts in terms of monitoring those types of things, because, Sandbeck isn't the only one that has storage tanks on the airport in that area does, Titan does. We could definitely, I think there's some room for improvement there. So I appreciate that concern. In regard to the holes in the overlay district, that's something that I think we need to take another look at. I think this is a pretty unique scenario. I'm not saying that there's others out there. Something that probably needs to be revisited. This was done middle 2000s. A lot of this was put in place, so it's been there for a while.
Is that something that MPS should take a look at, or is that something, I mean, and I know that we would have to petition Clay County to do that, or we'd have to
Right.
question Clay County, but is that something that the city would want to bring to Clay County's attention and ask for that information, or MPS, or who should?
We can definitely take the lead on that. We've done some more aquifer mapping since the overlay was put in place. So maybe it's a question of, maybe there's not so much holes that are out there, but areas that we've since identified that the aquifer actually is,
Sure.
but we didn't get an overlay district there.
Okay.
So I think there are some areas that we could kind of revisit some of this stuff, and it's, like I said, it's been around for a while, and it's definitely time.
Okay. I would certainly like to hear back from you after maybe you have some time to take a look at that. So can you come back in a month, 2 months, few months, or however long you
Sure.
think it would take to get
Yep.
that information? Because I just think that's crucial to keep that aquifer safe and sound.
I agree
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
I figured you would.
Thanks for those comments, Heidi.
Let's plan to revisit in about 3 months or so, and just see how this thing is progressing. But also, I would really welcome some effort, some real active effort to find out where the holes are.
Sure.
To kind of review this and revisit this so that those surprises might be eliminated a bit. So, Ralph, you had a question.
Along the same lines, are we still monitoring the Travel Plaza soil? The one at the northeast corner of the intersection there?
Yeah, we don't monitor that on an ongoing basis. We could look at that a little bit more. What we do monitor is some of the surface water features in those gravel pits. We take annual samples of those. We could step it up. The monitoring, there is a cost, but we could definitely do that. It's been on my mind for a while, and it's something we probably need to kind of revisit in terms of an annual activity.
Because there's still stuff in the ground there, right? And it was the idea, if I remember this correctly, it's still moving northward,
correct.
right?
Yeah, PCA, I mean, just a short history, there was a truck stop there. PCA came in and did a large cleanup effort. It was I think Cliff would have described it as a pretty good cleanup effort, but they definitely didn't get everything out. And so what Ralph is talking about is the oil and gasoline contamination that's still present and hasn't degraded. There definitely is some out there. So it's something that we haven't looked at in a while. We probably should take a look at that as well.
Is this strategic plan stuff?
Most definitely.
Yep.
And it's also tour stuff, because part of the education process would be and we've done that in the past, take a bus and drive out there and take a look at everything.
We haven't for a few years, yeah.
Yep. So, it's definitely strategic planning, it's definitely education, definitely tour. The one thing I wanted to mention too, because when Cliff was here and John and I and Cliff fought these battles at the county, this particular parcel, this hole in the Aquifer Management Overlay District was specifically left out by Clay County. It was an area that had some commercial development before. They didn't feel like they should have it, part of the overlay district. They definitely wanted to take this out to make sure that some kind of commercial operation like the one that we're dealing with right now could come in the future. And I think it was economic development efforts is what the county was thinking about there. So we did fight that one quite a bit, tried to get it in the overlay district back in the day, and we were unsuccessful. So it's not that we didn't try. So
we were aware of it.
Well, if you would prepare some revisions that we can tie into our strategic plan, and then we'll plan to have this on calendar so that we're revisiting, this particular project, and then maybe anything else. Ralph, you had something else?
Yeah, back to the travel plaza issue. I mean, on the funding side, maybe we can get some funding from state or something. I mean, I think it's an important enough issue for us to look into it. There's no urgency, like, it doesn't have to be done tomorrow, but I think we should keep an eye on where this stuff is, if it moves.
There's grant money out there. We've used we've probably done $100,000 worth of grant work on the aquifer. It's probably definitely applicable.
Yeah. And like we've said before, I mean, that's our water right there, right? We need to do everything we can to make sure it doesn't get contaminated, so.
Correct.
Have we beat this one to death yet?
Yep, we have.
Okay, all righty. We're good?
Yep.
Okay, all righty. Next on the agenda to,
Can I get a motion on that?
oh yeah, we need to accept the report here, don't we? Okay, I'd take a motion to accept.
Make a motion, accept the.
Got a motion from John? Second?
Second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Thank you. Item number 10 is an item to approve updated interconnection contract and updated exhibits to firm electric service contract and consolidated facility arrangements contract with Western Area Power Administration. William.
I'm going to have Travis talk about this, but this is, a very important contract. It's a very important power supply, and we don't have these contracts come in front of us very often, but Travis and his staff are saving us substantial money by making some revisions to how everything works out there.
Yep.
And we'll see how well he can explain this so you can understand it.
All right, yeah, this
Everybody
is
had their no-dose pills?
yeah, tell me about it.
Okay.
It's pretty boring. Travis Schmidt, Electrical Engineering Manager. So tonight I'm asking you guys to approve two exhibits to two of our existing contracts. They're updates to it, and then an interconnection contract as well, too. And basically what's happening is we are changing where we meter our power suppliers from. So currently we meter them out at 2 substations. We're going to now be metering them at every substation on the low side of the transformer. What we do is we save about $100,000 a year, $107,000 annually to do this. And how it's kind of working is when Western Area Power, WAPA, started moving into the SPP, the Southwest Power Pool, there was a chance for us to save on our MRES, or Missouri River Energy Services, transmission losses. We still have to pay our WAPA losses because that's part of our firm power supply contract with them. But to do everything, and we have to do all these exhibit updates showing where points of service are changing to, along with making sure that Southwest Power Pool is a part of our interconnection agreement as well, too, which they weren't when we initially started this project. So the cost of the project is $190,000. We're still working to finalize the project, but we need to get these contracts updated as part of the whole project itself. So really that's the gist of everything that we've got going on. So
Ralph.
So we're spending $190,000 one time, and we're saving $107,000 per year going forward.
roughly, yep. So it's a good opportunity for us. Again, we're still going to have to pay our transmission costs for WAPA, but we'll save the MRES transmission losses.
This was anticipated, so it's budgeted.
Yes. Yep. It's been in the budget for a couple of years. We've been working for it for about 2 years now.
Yeah, I noted that it said budgeted, and it
Yep.
seemed like something that might have just kind of come out of the
Yeah,
blue.
we started this
so-
back in 2015.
Yeah, oh, okay.
So.
Okay, so we've been planning for it.
Yes.
Good deal. Any questions, folks?
Councilor, okay with?
Yes, I did review the contracts for them, and there's not a lot of language that they'll allow to be changed, but it looks acceptable, yes.
As I read page after page, I thought of you, John.
Pretty fascinating stuff.
Here are they. Here are the contracts.
Yeah, really, here they are, yeah, so, okay. Yeah, page after page. So, any further questions? I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve item number
10.
10.
You're not going to read the whole thing?
Nope.
Okay, I already did.
I'll second number 10.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Item number 13 is an item to approve application to Drinking Water Revolving Fund for 2019. Golly, pardon the croup here. Southside Water Tower and Water Main Looping Project. Uncle Chris.
Just a little background on this project. First, a little bit about the Drinking Water Revolving Fund. MPS has actually used this for two previous projects, the High Service Pumping Station project and the recently completed Sims project. This fund allows for low interest loans, so it's a very competitive interest rate and really allows us to get capital projects done in an efficient way. We've got actually two items in front of us tonight that we're looking at. The first one is the 2019 Southside Water Tower and Water Main Looping Project. This is actually for the Southside Water Tower. We've talked quite a bit about that. It'll be located at 28th Street South and 46th Avenue. And we actually purchased land, I believe 2016 for that use. Really two important pieces of this project: the construction of a 750,000 gallon tank and a loop that would actually tie the industrial park in and provide us a secondary loop for the industrial park. And so this is really the first step in the process. It's just the application. We still have to be awarded enough points to be eligible for the funding. So it's, we're hoping for the best. It's a little challenging on this one because the Drinking Water Revolving Fund doesn't fund growth or anything to do with fire protection. So in essence, these two things that we're getting both are important for fire protection and the growth of the south side, but we couldn't really phrase it that way in the application. So if you're wondering why that's not talked about in the application, that would be why. So actually, the focus from our standpoint was we're starting to fall behind a little bit on our overall system storage. That was really the main focal point of this particular application, but it hurts our case a little bit because the funding isn't really geared toward this type of project, but we're still optimistic that we can actually obtain funding or be successful in the application.
What's the closest south side storage? Is that Bellesley?
Bellesley and I-94.
Water Tower, right?
You're going to be close to one of those two. But yeah, those are the two closest. So we're really short south of the interstate. But system-wide, we're about 500,000 gallons short. So it's not a crisis level, but we definitely need to get it addressed within the next couple of years. And actually getting the Southside Water Tower done before the I-94 painting project would be very beneficial and timely. So that's kind of the focus right now, and that's what we're working toward.
What was the interest rate we got last time when we used WRF money? 1 point something? 1%?
Just one, yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's very favorable.
That's not bad. Any further questions for Chris?
So timing again, 2019, this water tower.
Yep.
And then 2020, the painting of the I-94 tower.
Correct, yeah. And actually the construction of the 19 project would be in late 19 and extend into 20. So I-94 would be painted in the latter part of 20. So the construction of this tower is likely a two-year process. We could start in later part of 19.
How much does a water tower cost? 3.5?
Yeah, I haven't looked at. It's in that range. We have about $800,000 worth of underground improvements associated with it. That's that loop for the industrial park. You guys, remember, many people probably remember that fire we had in Pactive. This would really help out pressures in that type of event. So definitely not an insignificant portion of this project. It costs about $800,000. So total project 3.5.
More questions? Ideas? John?
On the attachment, we have a picture of a water tower with a logo on it, or a design. Is that something we're going to have to come in discussion with the new tower as well shortly?
Yeah, we would start discussion on that one actually after the I-94 one. So we'll probably be working on I-94 within the next couple months. We'll start kind of brainstorming what worked, what didn't, what do we think we can use for funding source, those types of things. So it's a generic design. It's just done for visual appeal.
But just clarification, is the new tower is going to be built in 19?
Correct.
And the other water tower is going to be painted in 20?
Correct.
So we will not have a design for the new tower until 21 then?
It just, I don't think it'll take as long to do, the location of this tower is not, that's why I-94 is higher on the priority list because of the location. This tower is not in a very visible, or as visible of location.
But you are expecting something to be painted on it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we would definitely get some type of design on it. I'm not sure what, we would have to have some discussion about that, but yeah, I'm not sure.
In an aside to that issue, I know we've had the relationship with the Arts Commission and so forth for these neighborhood-oriented ones, but I think we need to pause a bit and talk about some of these towers where they're located in pretty strategic places, where the visibility is so high, and I think we ought to have a bit of a conversation about marketing in addition to art, because in some cases here these are going to be billboards as opposed to neighborhood features. So
Absolutely.
I-94 for sure.
I-94 for sure, but this one in an industrial park, we might want to think about how it communicates to that kind of a neighborhood as opposed to, so keep that in mind, I guess, as we go forward. A big tractor. Yeah, she didn't say it into the microphone, so I'll say it for her. I like that, a John Deere tractor. Okay. What else do we have to do here? Any further comments besides tractors and stuff? Okay. I'd be open to a motion then. To approve.
I move to approve the application to drinking water revolving fund for the Southside Water Tower and Water Main Looping Project.
Thank you, Chris.
Nice.
Got a second?
I'll second.
We have one, bro. I got a second from Cheryl.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Item number 14, to approve application to Drinking Water Revolving Fund for lime sludge dewatering facility. Ralph, this is yours. Oh, excuse me, this is Chris. This will be Chris's, then it's Ralph's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. So similar to the Southside Water Tower project, here we're applying for drinking water revolving funds for a lime sludge dewatering facility. And we've talked about lime sludge quite a bit getting to this point, and really kind of the conclusion we've come to is that a dewatering facility is really the most economical and efficient way to move forward with our sludge issue. So what we're proposing to do is build a dewatering facility just adjacent to our existing water treatment plant, just to the northwest of the plant itself. And the cost of that facility is it's going to be an expensive facility. It's about $6.4 roughly $1 million that we're going to be looking for a dewatering facility. And ultimately, the goal of that facility would be to take sludge that we're currently sending out to our ponds and storing indefinitely. We're going to dewater that sludge on site, send the water out to our ponds, and then send those solids to Clay County landfill. So that's what we're going to be looking at for a future mode of operation for how we operate the facility. Again, it's an application, so we're not fully committed to the design at this point. It's just this is what we think is best at the time, and that's what we're pursuing. I should mention, in tandem to the application, we're also looking at, we're hopefully going to have an item for you on the May meeting for a possible partnership to look at a joint solids facility. So we want to do those two things in tandem because there's a probability that may or may not work. We haven't looked at it fully yet, but that's something that we're still looking at. We could still turn, if we were successful in the lime application, we could still turn down the actual loan if we felt so inclined at a later point. But the application gets us in queue for funding.
Wow. $6 million to just deal with garbage. We can't even sell it. Wow. Hey, questions, anyone? Ralph?
Quick question. Have we talked to, I love, the word sludge is just a great word. Have we talked to the landfill? Would they take what we send them?
They would take it. You know, they're concerned about the consistency of the dewatered sludge, so it has to be thick, it has to be a cake. So the facility we're proposing is a mechanical press. Basically, you know, think of taking water out of cheese using cheesecloth. You're pressing it, removing the water, getting it to a nice firm consistency. Then you put it in a truck and you send it to Clay County.
And we'll have, what, 2 trucks a day?
Yeah, during the summer it'd be like 2 trucks a day. In the winter it'd be like 1 truck a day. Basically a roll-off.
And I assume the $6.5 million is just the plant, not the operating costs?
Right.
And not the cost to ship stuff over to Clay County?
Correct. Yeah, so we'd probably do like a contract hauler to actually remove the sludge on an ongoing basis. And yeah, it'd probably, you know, in the range of $100,000 to $200,000 in annual O&M. So.
Do you have a meaningful prospect for that partnership?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still a little early. We're still working on it. It has the potential to be an efficient way to do it. It's just until we get some of these early things figured out and everybody kind of has a good comfort level. I don't want to talk about it too much until we get it,
Yeah.
until we kind of develop some of the
Sure.
really preliminary ideas.
Sure.
But I think it's meaningful.
John?
This question may be direct more to Heidi or Chris if she would want to come up. Since this is imposed by the state, is there any way that we can make an application for partial funding like we did the bridge on 2021st, as far as for a participation in the cost of this? Because I know there's probably a few others here, but we're doing this because of the state is requiring it.
Right.
And we're looking at $7 million. So have we looked at that option, or is it even possible?
It is possible. This would be the first step to do that. So if we get on the list, and the city, we did some advocacy with the city, it is possible to do it. I think Detroit Lakes just did their wastewater plant in a similar way to this, and I believe they did get some state money to help finance it. But basically, the state gives a certain amount of money. The remainder of that money is then financed through the low-interest loan. So it would have to be, we'd have to do some advocacy at the state level, but certainly we're doing this because of the restrictions imposed by MPCA.
Right. Okay. So is that something that has already started, or is that still communication between MPS and the city, or where?
Now would be the time to start.
Forward? Okay.
Yeah, this would be the starting point. Okay. I mean, first we have to score high enough to be eligible, and I think once you're on that list, you could maybe start now and just say, hey, we have this project out there. If it's eligible, we'd sure like to see the state kick in some money. That's a conversation we could have.
Well, I would almost say it would be, worst case scenario, if it's not approved in there, that means we're going to need additional support because it's going to be more of a high expense funding source or financing source.
Correct.
So we would need more help from the state that way. So it seems to me that we should be looking for as soon as possible of I don't know the process that has to be followed here, but if there's an option where we can get in those discussions as soon as possible, I would encourage it.
I think that's something Bill and I can work on and work with Chris and staff.
And maybe to put that in perspective too, Chris, what's your annual water budget, roughly?
For capital or for?
In general. What's your water revenue?
Like 9?
Roughly.
9-ish? 9 million?
Close to $9 million. So we have $9 million in revenue, and we're looking at a $6.5 million expense item, just to put it in perspective.
Right. Right.
It's not a fair comparison, but it gives an idea of how big that item really is.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Plus the operational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seems like a regional opportunity to me.
Mm-hmm.
Find some partners. Heidi?
Thank you. Chris, what does the sludge consist of? Is there anything hazardous? Is there anything quasi-hazardous? Anything all natural minerals and junk in there?
It's inert, so it's not
Okay.
chemically reactive.
Okay.
It just consists of minerals, particles, and chemicals that have been precipitated out, kind of forming into a thick mud. And it's a byproduct of water softening. So it's not toxic. It's actually from a most landfills view it in a favorable sense. Fargo views it in a very favorable sense in that they use it as a cover material, i.e. it keeps debris from flying up and causing all sorts of issues.
Exactly. Are there any racetracks that might want it in a powder form to keep down the gravel on said racetracks?
It's more of a wet consistency,
Okay.
even over, it takes several years to dry.
It would, okay.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, it's not toxic.
I
It's
have a
just,
feeling that there will be communities who will be looking for a way to use or recycle or do something with their sludge. I would imagine maybe some young entrepreneurs, or maybe, I don't know, young scientists, give them a challenge of coming up with something to do with this sludge.
yeah, it's a common problem. I mean, Fargo has to deal, although lime softening communities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Cloud, we all have to deal with this byproduct of the treatment process. From a location standpoint, unfortunate in that a lot of places, the sludge is actually viewed as a positive soil amendment. Actually, you can use it for pH adjustment in the soils. Just so happens our chemistry around here doesn't support that use. So we looked at, land application in detail. It's not really feasible in this area. So we wish there was a beneficial use. We've tried to make we've looked at the feasibility of almost making a market, if you will.
Right.
And it's just not there. It doesn't pencil out, which is unfortunate.
Okay, well, thanks.
So what was
Chris.
the closest land that we thought would be used? Bemidji?
It was like Staples.
Staples?
Staples was the closest place that would take it. So it just, you balance the trucking cost with a closer place like the landfill, the Clay County landfill. And it's a balancing act, and that's the economics we were faced with.
Favorite topic? Yeah, okay. Anything further? I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll approve the application to Drinking Water Revolving Fund for Lime Sludge Dewatering Facility.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
Got a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. At this time, we'll be going into closed session. The meeting will close for executive session as permitted by Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05 Subdivision 3A to evaluate the performance of the general manager. I don't believe we're coming back out for anything. So we'll adjourn at the end of the executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved?
Need a second?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. We are in executive.